Welcome to Anatomy and Physiology 2E. Today, we will be going over Chapter 1, An Introduction to the Human Body. Slides adapted from OpenStax instructor resources. A link to the textbook can be found in the description below. Thank you, OpenStax. Figure 1:1 blood pressure, a proficiency in anatomy and physiology, is fundamental to any career in the health professions. Credit: Brian Mason/Flickr. Figure 1:2 gross and microscopic anatomy. Gross anatomy considers large structures such as the brain. Microscopic anatomy can deal with the same structures, though at a different scale. This is a micrograph of nerve cells from the brain, LM times 1600. Credit A, University of Wisconsin and Michigan State Comparative Mammalian Brain Collections Brain Museum. Org, Credit B. Micrograph provided by the Regents of University of Michigan Medical School. Copyright 2012. Figure 1:3 levels of structural organization of the human body. The organization of the body often is discussed in terms of 6 distinct levels of increasing complexity, from the smallest chemical building blocks to a unique human organism. This illustration shows biological organization as a pyramid. The chemical level is at the apex of the pyramid, where atoms bond to form molecules with three-dimensional structures. An example is shown with 2 white hydrogen atoms bonding to a red oxygen atom to create water. The next level down on the pyramid is the cellular level, as illustrated with a long, tapered, smooth muscle cell. At this level, a variety of molecules combine to form the interior fluid and organelles of a body cell. The next level down is the tissue level. A community of similar cells forms body tissue. The example given here is a section of smooth muscle tissue, which contains many smooth muscle cells closely bound side by side. The next level down is the organ level, as illustrated with the bladder and urethra. The bladder contains smooth muscle while the urethra contains skeletal muscle. These are both examples of muscle tissues. The next level down is the organ system level, as illustrated by the entire urinary system containing the kidney, ureters, bladder, and urethra. At this level, 2 or more organs work closely together to perform the functions of a body system. At the base of the pyramid is the organismal level, illustrated with a woman drinking water. At this level, many organ systems work harmoniously together to perform the functions of an independent organism. Organs that work together are grouped into organ systems. This illustration shows 8 silhouettes of a human female, each showing the components of a different organ system. The integumentary system encloses internal body structures and is the site of many sensory receptors. The integumentary system includes the hair, skin, and nails. The skeletal system supports the body and, along with the muscular system, enables movement. The skeletal system includes cartilage, such as that at the tip of the nose, as well as the bones and joints. The muscular system enables movement, along with the skeletal system, but also helps to maintain body temperature. The muscular system includes skeletal muscles, as well as tendons that connect skeletal muscles to bones. The nervous system detects and processes sensory information and activates bodily responses. The nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, such as those located in the limbs. The endocrine system secretes hormones and regulates bodily processes. The endocrine system includes the pituitary gland in the brain, the thyroid gland in the throat, the pancreas in the abdomen, the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys, and the testes in the scrotum of males, as well as the ovaries in the pelvic region of females. The cardiovascular system delivers oxygen and nutrients to the tissues, as well as equalizes temperature in the body. The cardiovascular system includes the heart and blood vessels. Figure 1:5. Organ systems of the human body, continued. Organs that work together are grouped into organ systems. The lymphatic system returns fluid to the blood and defends against pathogens. The lymphatic system includes the thymus in the chest, the spleen in the abdomen, the lymphatic vessels that spread throughout the body, and the lymph nodes distributed along the lymphatic vessels. The respiratory system removes carbon dioxide from the body and delivers oxygen to the blood. The respiratory system includes the nasal passages, the trachea, and the lungs. The digestive system processes food for use by the body and removes wastes from undigested food. The digestive system includes the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, connected to the liver, the large intestine, and the small intestine. The urinary system controls water balance in the body and removes and excretes waste from the blood. The urinary system includes the kidneys and the urinary bladder. The reproductive system of males and females produce sex hormones and gametes. The male reproductive system is specialized to deliver gametes to the female, while the female reproductive system is specialized to support the embryo and fetus until birth and produce milk for the infant after birth. The male reproductive system includes the two testes within the scrotum, as well as the epididymis, which wraps around each testis. The female reproductive system includes the mammary glands within the breasts and the ovaries and uterus within the pelvic cavity. Figure 1.6. Metabolism. Anabolic reactions are building reactions, and they consume energy. Catabolic reactions break materials down and release energy. Metabolism includes both anabolic and catabolic reactions. This illustration shows food entering a cell and being broken down into smaller particles of different colors. This is catabolism, which releases energy. In anabolism, the different colored particles are combined with each other to form larger, multicolored structures. Anabolism requires an energy input. Figure 1.7. Marathon runners demonstrate two characteristics of living humans: responsiveness and movement. Anatomic structures and physiological processes allow runners to coordinate the action of muscle groups and sweat in response to rising internal body temperature. Credit: Phil Roeder/Flicker, Figure 1.8. Extreme heat. Humans acclimate to some degree to repeated exposure to high temperatures. Credit: McKay Savage/Flicker. This photo shows two white-clad men riding camels through a sparse desert. Two canvas tents are visible in the background. Figure 1.9. Harsh conditions. Climbers on Mount Everest must accommodate extreme cold, low oxygen levels, and low barometric pressure in an environment hostile to human life. Credit: Melanie Coe/Flicker. This photo shows Mount Everest as seen from a distance. It is a large, pyramid-shaped, craggy peak with many smaller snow-covered peaks in the foreground. The peak of Mount Everest is partially occluded by clouds. Figure 1.10. Negative feedback system. In a negative feedback system, a stimulus, a deviation from a set point, is resisted through a physiological process that returns the body to homeostasis. A negative feedback system has 5 basic parts. Body temperature is regulated by negative feedback. This figure shows two flow charts labeled A and B chart. A shows a general negative feedback loop. The loop starts with a stimulus. Information about the stimulus is perceived by a sensor, which sends that information to a control center. The control center sends a signal to an effector, which creates a response. That then feeds back to the top of the flow chart by inhibiting the stimulus. Part B shows body temperature regulation as an example of negative feedback system. Here, the stimulus is body temperature exceeding 37 degrees Celsius. The sensor is a set of nerve cells in the skin and brain, and the control center is the temperature regulatory center of the brain. The effectors are sweat glands throughout the body, which lead to increased heat loss and inhibit the rising body temperature. Figure 1.11. Positive feedback loop. Normal childbirth is driven by a positive feedback loop. A positive feedback loop results in a change in the body's status, rather than a return to homeostasis. This diagram shows the steps of a positive feedback loop as a series of stepwise arrows looping around a diagram of an infant within the uterus of a pregnant woman. Initially, the head of the baby pushes against the cervix, transmitting nerve impulses from the cervix to the brain. Next, the brain stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete oxytocin, which is carried in the bloodstream to the uterus. Finally, the oxytocin simulates uterine contractions and pushes the baby harder into the cervix. As the head of the baby pushes against the cervix with greater and greater force, the uterine contractions grow stronger and more frequent. This mechanism is a positive feedback loop. Figure 1.12. Regions of the human body. The human body is shown in anatomical position in an A anterior view and a B posterior view. The regions of the body are labeled in boldface. This illustration shows an anterior and posterior view of the human body. The cranial region encompasses the upper part of the head, while the facial region encompasses the lower half of the head beginning below the ears. The eyes are referred to as the ocular region. The cheeks are referred to as the buccal region. The ears are referred to as the auricle or otic region. The nose is referred to as the nasal region. The chin is referred to as the mental region. The neck is referred to as the cervical region. The trunk of the body contains, from superior to inferior, the thoracic region encompassing the chest, the mammary region encompassing each breast, the abdominal region encompassing the stomach area, the coxal region encompassing the belt line, and the pubic region encompassing the area above the genitals. The umbilicus, or navel, is located at the center of the abdomen. The pelvis and legs contain, from superior to inferior, the inguinal or groin region between the legs and the genitals, the pubic region surrounding the genitals, the femoral region encompassing the thighs, the patellar region encompassing the knee, the crural region encompassing the lower leg, the tarsal region encompassing the ankle, the pedal region encompassing the foot, and the digital phalangeal region encompassing the toes. The great toe is referred to as the hallux. The regions of the upper limbs, from superior to inferior, are the axillary region encompassing the armpit, the brachial region encompassing the upper arm, the antecubital region encompassing the front of the elbow, the antebrachial region encompassing the forearm, the carpal region encompassing the wrist, the palmar region encompassing the palm, and the digital phalangeal region encompassing the fingers. The thumb is referred to as the pollex. The posterior view contains, from superior to inferior, the cervical region encompassing the neck, the dorsal region encompassing the upper back, and the lumbar region encompassing the lower back. The regions of the back of the arms, from superior to inferior, include the cervical region encompassing the neck, acromial region encompassing the shoulder, the brachial region encompassing the upper arm, the olecranal region encompassing the back of the elbow, the antebrachial region encompasses the back of the arm, and the manual region encompassing the palm of the hand. The posterior regions of the legs, from superior to inferior, include the gluteal region encompassing the buttocks, the femoral region encompassing the thigh, the popliteus region encompassing the back of the knee, the sural region encompassing the back of the lower leg, and the plantar region encompassing the sole of the foot. Some regions are combined into larger regions. These include the trunk, which is a combination of the thoracic, mammary, abdominal, navel, and coxal regions. The cephalic region is a combination of all of the head regions. The upper limb region is a combination of all of the arm regions. The lower limb region is a combination of all of the leg regions. Figure 113. Directional terms applied to the human body, paired directional terms are shown as applied to the human body. This illustration shows two diagrams, one of a side view of a female and the other of an anterior view of a female. Each diagram shows directional terms using double-sided arrows. The cranial distal arrow runs vertically behind the torso and lower abdomen. The cranial arrow is pointing toward the head, while the caudal arrow is pointing toward the tailbone. The posterior-anterior arrow is running horizontally through the back and chest. The posterior or dorsal arrow is pointing toward the back, while the anterior or ventral arrow is pointing toward the abdomen. On the anterior view, the proximal distal arrow is on the right arm. The proximal arrow is pointing up toward the shoulder, while the distal arrow is pointing down toward the hand. The lateral medial arrow is a horizontal arrow on the abdomen. The medial arrow is pointing toward the navel, while the lateral arrow is pointing away from the body to the right. Right refers to the right side of the woman's body from her perspective, while left refers to the left side of the woman's body from her perspective. Figure 114. Planes of the body. The three planes most commonly used in anatomical and medical imaging are the sagittal, frontal, or coronal, and transverse plane. This illustration shows a female viewed from her right, front side. The anatomical planes are depicted as blue rectangles passing through the woman's body. The frontal or coronal plane enters through the right side of the body, passes through the body, and exits from the left side. It divides the body into front, anterior, and back, posterior halves. The sagittal plane enters through the back and emerges through the front of the body. It divides the body into right and left halves. The transverse plane passes through the body perpendicular to the frontal and sagittal planes. This plane is a cross-section which divides the body into upper and lower halves. Figure 115. Dorsal and ventral body cavities. The ventral cavity includes the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavities and their subdivisions. The dorsal cavity includes the cranial and spinal cavities. This illustration shows a lateral and anterior view of the body and highlights the body cavities with different colors. The cranial cavity is a large, bean-shaped cavity filling most of the upper skull, where the brain is located. The vertebral cavity is a very narrow, thread-like cavity running from the cranial cavity down the entire length of the spinal cord. Together, the cranial cavity and vertebral cavity can be referred to as the dorsal body cavity. The thoracic cavity consists of 3 cavities that fill the interior area of the chest. The 2 pleural cavities are situated on both sides of the body, anterior to the spine and lateral to the breastbone. The superior mediastinum is a wedge-shaped cavity located between the superior regions of the 2 thoracic cavities. The pericardial cavity within the mediastinum is located at the center of the chest, below the superior mediastinum. The pericardial cavity roughly outlines the shape of the heart. The diaphragm divides the thoracic and the abdominal cavities. The abdominal cavity occupies the entire lower half of the trunk, anterior to the spine. Just under the abdominal cavity, anterior to the buttocks, is the pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity is funnel-shaped and is located inferior and anterior to the abdominal cavity. Together, the abdominal and pelvic cavity can be referred to as the abdominopelvic cavity, while the thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic cavities together can be referred to as the ventral body cavity. Figure 116. Regions and quadrants of the peritoneal cavity. There are 9 abdominal regions and 4 abdominal quadrants in the peritoneal cavity. This illustration has 2 parts. Part A shows the abdominopelvic regions. These regions divide the abdomen into 9 squares. The upper right square is the right hypochondriac region and contains the base of the right ribs. The upper left square is the left hypochondriac region and contains the base of the left ribs. The epigastric region is the upper central square and contains the bottom edge of the liver as well as the upper areas of the stomach. The diaphragm curves like an upside-down U over these 3 regions. The central right region is called the right lumbar region and contains the ascending colon and the right edge of the small intestines. The central square contains the transverse colon and the upper regions of the small intestines. The left lumbar region contains the left edge of the transverse colon and the left edge of the small intestine. The lower right square is the right iliac region and contains the right pelvic bones and the ascending colon. The lower left square is the left iliac region and contains the left pelvic bone and the lower left regions of the small intestine. The lower central square contains the bottom of the pubic bones, upper regions of the bladder, and the lower region of the small intestine. Part B shows 4 abdominopelvic quadrants. The right upper quadrant, RUQ, includes the lower right ribs, right side of the liver, and right side of the transverse colon. The left upper quadrant, LUQ, includes the lower left ribs, stomach, and upper left area of the transverse colon. The right lower quadrant, RLQ, includes the right half of the small intestines, ascending colon, right pelvic bone, and upper right area of the bladder. The left lower quadrant, LLQ, contains the left half of the small intestine and left pelvic bone. Figure 117. Serous membrane lines the pericardial cavity and reflects back to cover the heart, much the same way that an underinflated balloon would form 2 layers surrounding a fist. This diagram shows the pericardium on the left next to an analogy of a hand punching a balloon on the right. The pericardium is a 2-layered sac that surrounds the entire heart, except where the blood vessels emerge on the heart's superior side. The pericardium has 2 layers because it folds over itself in the shape of the letter U. The inner layer that borders the heart is the visceral pericardium, while the outer layer is the parietal pericardium. The space between the 2 layers is called the pericardial cavity. The heart sits in the cavity much like a fist punching into a balloon. The balloon surrounds the lower part of the fist with a 2-layered sac, with the top of the balloon, where it contacts the fist, being analogous to the visceral pericardium. The bottom of the balloon, where it is tied off, is analogous to the parietal pericardium. The air within the balloon is analogous to the pericardial cavity. Figure 118. X-ray of a hand, high-energy electromagnetic radiation allows the internal structures of the body, such as bones, to be seen in X-rays like these. Credit: tracemeek/flicker. This photo shows an X-ray image of the palmar surface of the left hand. The bones appear bright white against a gray outline of the skin of the hand. The 4 segments of the finger bones are clearly visible, as well as the collection of round bones that compose the wrist and connect the hand to the 2 bones of the forearm. Figure 119. Medical imaging techniques. A. The results of a CT scan of the head are shown as successive transverse sections. B. An MRI machine generates a magnetic field around a patient. C. PET scans use radiopharmaceuticals to create images of active blood flow and physiologic activity of the organ or organs being targeted. D. Ultrasound technology is used to monitor pregnancies because it is the least invasive of imaging techniques and uses no electromagnetic radiation. Credit A. Akira Ogaki/Flickr. Credit B. Digital Kate/Flickr. Credit C. Raziel/Wikimedia Commons. Credit D. ISIS/Wikimedia Commons. These photos shows 4 types of imaging equipment. Photo A, the results of a CT scan, shows 17 different transverse views of the skull, each taken at a different depth along the superior-inferior axis. The images are translucent, similar to an X-ray, and are viewed on a light board. Photo B shows an MRI machine, which is a large drum into which lying patients enter via a conveyor belt. Photo C shows computer images of the body taken with PET scans. This produces anterior, lateral, posterior, and transverse views of the body that reveal the structure of the internal organs. Photo D shows an ultrasound readout, which is black and white. The image depicts solid tissues as light areas and empty space as dark areas. Some of the features of a young fetus can be seen in the empty space at the center of the image. The space containing the fetus is surrounded by the solid tissue of the uterus. This concludes Chapter 1 of the OpenStax Anatomy and Physiology 2E textbook. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. This OpenStax ancillary resource is copyright Rice University under a CC BY 4.0 international license. It may be reproduced or modified but must be attributed to OpenStax, Rice University, and any changes must be noted.